Hi everyone, I'm going to talk to you today about this, which is the HandBox R-400, which is a bass head made in Poland. I've been using one of these for about 6 months or so now, and I think I've got enough miles with it to be able to talk about it in a bit more detail. Basically, I'm just going to ramble on about it. There's not going to be a great deal of structure here, and a couple of things just to get clear from the start. It's not a sound test. There are other people out there who are fantastic at doing sound tests. They've got the gear, they've got rooms which aren't full of things that rattle on the shelves. It's a review. I'll play it a little bit so you can hear what various bits and bobs do. But I've got other videos on the channel which will give you an idea about how it sounds in a live environment. So, how did I find out about this amp? Well, for many years I've been using the Mesa Walkabout, which I've had a couple of them basically. I like the size of them. They're not particularly heavy, but they're perfect for gigging. The Walkabout's a really well made head, and there's been times where I've been tempted and I've sold it and bought the latest Class D new kid on the block, and it's just not the same. I realise this is a polarising issue, but I don't get on with the Class D heads that I've tried, certainly not using the technology that I use at the moment. It might change in the future, I don't know, but at the same time I don't want to deal with carrying a big heavy head around with us, which is why I always like the Walkabout, and I've used that for years, and it's great at what it does, but it's got a very baked in sound. By nature it's very valvey, but it's also very warm, very fat, which is great, but that doesn't work in all situations, I don't think. Now, one of the last Class D heads that I borrowed was a Demeter, unbelievably expensive, really well made thing, and I really liked the preamp. The preamp was very simple, just a few knobs, and it sounded great in the house, low volume gigs. At a proper gig, I think it had the similar thing to what a lot of Class Ds do, where they kind of lose their backbone a bit when the going gets tough. But I really liked the preamp, and I thought that there must be somewhere a traditional head along the lines of the Walkabout, but with a simple, cleaner preamp. And I looked, and there wasn't really one, and I kept looking, and eventually I stumbled across HandBox's website through this sort of convoluted journey, which obviously was all in Polish, but Google Translate did the job, and it seemed to be exactly what I was looking for. It was a very simple head, 400 watt, not many knobs on it, and a traditional power section. So I got in touch with Leszek, the chap who runs them, designs them, builds them, and he very kindly agreed to send one out so I could have a look at it, because obviously they don't really have much of a profile in the UK. So it was very kind of him to offer to send one across, and that's the black and orange one, which you've probably seen. I've talked about it on Bass Chat and Talk Bass, and I've got some clips on YouTube, which have got sort of DI little demos and things which you can have a look at. And I've been gigging that ever since, and I didn't touch the Walkabout again, and the R400 became my main amp, and I absolutely love it. So let's just turn it on, and you can see it goes into standby mode there at the moment. It goes, well, not standby, sorry, it goes into sort of power safe, does all its checks. Another thing I have to say, I'm not a technical person, so a lot of this is kind of rocket science to me. I just play them. So it runs through its cycle, which takes about 45 seconds, and while it's doing that, I'll just chat about what we've got. So we've got a very compact box. There you go, it's on. Did you see that? It's very cool. It comes with a clip-on lid. It's a wooden, very, very well made wooden box. It's got lovely sort of chamfered edges. There's a handle on the side, spring handle, catches as you would like to see on something like this, and it's a very easy lift. Like I say, there's a spring handle on the side. Just pick it up and off you go. It weighs about the same as the Walkabout. I think it's 10.5 kilograms, which is about 23 pounds, I think it weighs. So it's a very easy one-hand lift, and it's very compact. The thing which comes across straight away is the build quality. It's just, I mean, it's hand built by people who really care about what they're doing. There's no plastic on this. There's the power switch at the back is plastic, but it's like a really sort of tough. You can tell it's like a quality switch. And you've got the knobs on the front, which are sort of high quality plastic. The rest is just steel and aluminium. I don't know, whatever it is these days. This frame around the front here is steel or aluminium. I guess it's steel. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of corners cut on the whole lamp. And it just comes across, the quality just comes across. It's not like the sort of plasticky car radio Class Ds that you tend to get these days for lots of money, frankly. So yeah, hand built in Poland by Leszek and his guys. So I'll just run through what we've got. Your standard jack input. We've got a mute here, mute switch. We've got an input gain with a bright switch. Now, if you can bear with us a second, the bright switch, when you engage it, gives you a 3 dB boost at 100 Hertz. It also does a 3 dB cut at 750 Hertz, as you can see. I'm reading from a thing I've written down here, and it also gives a 2 dB boost at 10 kilohertz. And I'll give you a quick demo of that in a moment. There's a drive switch, which is a 6 dB boost, I think. And then you're into the bass and treble. You should be able to see the plot now, which tells you exactly what to do. But it's based on the old Fender Baxendale tone stack. You've got a contour switch, which gives you, again reading from the sheet, 0 to 12 dB cut at 1 kilohertz. And again, I'll come back to that later and give you an idea of what that does. Then you've got your output volume. You've got your ready switch, which you can see is glowing nicely there. It's ready to go. You've got your limiter. The amp comes with an optical limiter built in. You occasionally see it flickering when you're really digging in. I've spoken to Leszek about it, and he says it can just be on and it's not a problem. It just means it's doing what it's supposed to do. What the specifics are, I don't know, but it sounds great, so that's fine. And then you've got your protect switch light here, which is the red light, which is on when it's in its kind of power up mode, along with the logo here. You've got your pre-post. Oh, you've got a DI. Now the DI is it's a DI from the transformer, which I believe is a really nice thing. I've used the DI quite a few times on the YouTube clips that I've got. You can kind of get an idea of it on there, and also I've used it at pretty much every gig where I've needed a DI. So there's some pretty big gigs. The DI's just sounded absolutely beautiful. So you've got a pre-post DI switch here, so you can either take the DI straight from here, or after you've been through all of the EQ and everything, and you've got a 6 dB pad switch on the DI as well, if the signal's getting to the desk is too hot. The knobs are just really solid. When you turn them, you can feel there's like a sort of a gradient kind of click on them. So when you basically move it somewhere, that's it. It kind of stays. It's if you knock it, you can just knock it back a click. It's a nice feeling. Now, as far as the actual travel of the knobs goes, again, I've spoken to Leszek about this, and unlike I think we all know on most amps, when you turn the gain up, most of it happens in the first sort of third, the first half of travel. The knobs are all front loaded. On these, they're linear, so you basically, as you turn the knob up, it actually gets louder. It doesn't sort of run out at the end. So unlike most amps, I would say, you do find yourself sort of running it with the input and output gain, or certainly the output gain, higher than you would normally be comfortable with on a normal amp. I've just got used to that now. It's fine. It's that way because it's like 3/4 of the power or what have you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten it up and just give you an idea about how it might sound. So, okay, so there's the mute off. It's basically flat, and as you can probably see from the plot which I put up earlier, flat on here is literally, oh, it's not literally, but it's as close to flat as you're going to get. Most amps have got some sort of baked in tone somewhere. This doesn't. It's just clear. It's lovely. So if I just kind of up the input a bit and then give it a bit of gain. it's just crystal and rich and lovely. You can probably hear everything rattling in the room as well. If you hear any buzzes, it's not the amp, it's stuff in the room. So to be honest, when I first started playing it like that, any thoughts of there not being a mid knob just didn't bother me whatsoever. It's got mids to spare. It's a glorious sound. There's no attenuation. They're just absolutely clean and clear. The high end is there. It's clear, but it's not scratchy. It's not glassy. And the lows, it's got wonderful supportive lows, but there's no sort of boom or anything like that. It's just a really solid, lovely cushion under everything. And I find with this, unlike the sort of the Class Ds and to a lesser extent the Walkabout, I don't feel like I have to be as loud. It's got much more presence. It's much more supportive. I'm not constantly turning it up to kind of be felt, for the presence to be felt. It's just there and it's wonderful. So if we just have a quick look at the knobs. Again, I'm not sure how much of this you're going to be able to tell from here, but so we've got our bright switch here. So if I'll give you a quick. This is with it off, and then if I hit the bright on. So you can hear straight away that there's a lot more presence there. Now in a room like this, it's obviously not needed, but at a gig, if you're in there with a pick or something and you just want to cut through a bit more, hit that and off you go. It's just instantly there. I'll knock that off again. We've also got a drive switch. So again, if I've got the gain set at the moment, so it's not really cooking the valves. I forgot to mention it's got 3 12AX7 tubes in it. Now the Walkabout's got 2. This has got 3 in it, and the valves in the preamp are they're not start-off plate. They're actually full voltage, so it's really hitting the valves properly, like it does in the Messer, and like it does in the Warwick tube path, I think, is one of the other ones. Whereas most tube preamps are just basically just start-off plate, and they're just there for show, I think. So okay, so again, this is pretty much flat. This is without the gain, the bright or the drive switch engaged. So if I hit the drive switch, you'll straight away you can hear a ramp in the sensitivity there. Now, aside from the obvious ramp in volume there, it seems to just sort of it seems to fatten it out as it's hitting the tubes a little bit harder. You can just feel it. The drive switch sort of starts to push it into Walkabout territory, where it just makes things glow a bit more, just a bit fuzzy around the edges. It's a lovely switch to use. Depending on obviously the environment you're working in, it just really fattens it out if that's the way you want to go. And from there, I've taken the drive switch back off again. We're into our EQ here. So technically, with there being no mid switch, if you want to increase the mids, and again, as I mentioned earlier, I can't think of a time when I would ever need more mids on this amp. It's just the mids are just as they should be, just wonderful. Technically, if you do need more mids, you can just roll back the bass and the treble, and because that's pulling down the extreme top and bottom, it's making the mids poke out a bit more. People might want to do that. I can't think of a time when I would ever want to do that, based on my experience with it. But the bass switch, the knob rather, if I just crank that up a bit, straight away, that's a huge sound. That again, at the gig, it's, in my experience, it's right just as it is. I don't think I've ever needed to dial the bass up. It sounds great here. It sounds fantastic. And maybe when you're recording, if you've got a mic on the cab, you might just want to do that or use the drive switch just to fatten it up a bit to compensate for lack of pushing the amp. There's loads of travel with that. You could go on, you could dial as much bass as you want in there, it's fantastic. And again, the treble, which is probably going to jump out in this room. That's going to start getting clattery in a room like this. But maybe not live. It might just help it sit a bit more live. Again, it's not the kind of tone that I would be looking for. But again, if you roll it off, takes away any sort of glassiness that you might have in an environment like this, but it still keeps those mids, those wonderful, wonderful mids. Okay, now contour switch knob. This is, again, reading at my thing, this is the 0 to -12 dB cut at 1 kilohertz. Now, I've loaned the R-400 out to a few different people, and they've gone for it straight away, and I think they've got a certain tone in mind, a scoop tone, and if that's what you're after, that's the knob for you. It's not my thing. It sounds great when you're sitting just sort of playing in a room like this though. So if you dial a little bit in, it does sound really nice in the if you're in sort of if you just want a bit of a smiley EQ going on. So it's a really useful dial. And from there you've got your output volume, which, like I say, you might find yourself running a bit hotter than normal. But that's just the nature of the travel of the dial. And that's kind of it, really. It's just absolutely wonderful, and for the price, I can't. It's absolutely. It would be an unbeatable amp. At any price, really. It's for me. This is my sound. The model I've gone for has got a custom Tolex cover on it, which is obviously to match the cab, and it matches absolutely perfectly. The frame is a silver frame. You get, if you speak to leisure, you get any different colours. I've seen the orange, red, white, so you can kind of chop and change. You can get a slightly different design with a sort of an angle drop in here. I've seen variations of it with lights behind the grille, if that's your thing. I think this is a really cool design as it is. And I'll just give you a quick run with flat wounds, just to give you an idea of how it sounds with Old Faithful here. I might just hit the drive switch in there a bit and just... The whole thing about this amp is just that supportive presence, the clarity. I absolutely love it, and I wish I'd found it a long time before now. I hope this has been useful. If you've got any comments, just drop them in the comments bit below. Thanks for watching.